Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PWT Talks NXT. We are talking NXT for October the 29th, 2024. In about 12 hours, I will fly out to Dallas. I don't have time to do this because I haven't packed, and 12 hours isn't very far away. But here I am because here somebody else couldn't be. So we're talking NXT. However, a very compact show, not a very busy show, which is always nice for me. I think the storytelling works better when you're not trying to do too much, and they didn't try to do too much. Five matches on this thing. Heavy promotion for what will no doubt be the main event match next week. That tag match, although you could make a pretty good argument for the 5-on-5 to be the main event next week because it's just going to be so good. But at any rate, we got our special ECW show next week that Nate apparently will not see. The poor bastard. It's going to be a great show, I believe, and a special night because they wanted to ruin my ability to call my brother on his birthday, make me way more likely to forget to do so. Although I'm off that day. So maybe I got a chance at remembering.
Yeah.
I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on social media at Spooky Milk. Nate, who the hell are you?
Nate Lindberg. You check out things I do at natelindberg.com. And I actually will be here this week. I didn't think I'd be here this week. I thought I was flying out a day sooner than I am, but I'm flying out the next day to go to my convention. So I will be here next Tuesday, and I will see that show live from the ECW Arena.
Your convention. This is a convention about Nate Lindberg. This is like the Nate Lindberg a-thon. Nate Lindberg con.
Screw it. I'll throw a plug out for it because it's for a good cause. If you happen to be in the York, Pennsylvania area, not this weekend, next weekend, November 6th through the 10th, there is a convention for the Bodhana Group, which Bodhana Group is a 501c3 charity organization that works with children and adults with different disabilities or victims of sexual abuse, and they through tabletop role-playing games, card games, board games, and they have their annual fundraiser coming up the 6th to the 10th in York, Pennsylvania. If you guys have any questions or want to check it out, let me know and I can point you in the right direction.
Cool. That was actually worth mentioning. So
yes.
Yeah, and in Philly, just like this NXT show will be doing the ECW flavor. So
I know I'm actually even kind of thinking about maybe changing my flight and hitting Philly the night before, but we'll see.
I was going to ask
show up at the ECW Arena, but I don't know. Well, I'll have to think about that.
I had one of my Dallas shows. Was it SummerSlam that was just in Dallas? No. It was the Cleveland show. It was the Cleveland show. Cleveland had SummerSlam, and if we had been there, if the card show had been a week earlier, I could have gone to some SummerSlam. So bummer, but I guess it is what it is. Surely I'll go to Cleveland many, many more times in my life because there's so many reasons. So main event, Jevon Evans and Cedric Alexander versus Axiom and Nathan Frazer. Has anyone caught their breath from this yet? 14 minutes and 54 seconds. By far the longest match of the night. By some, the longest match of the night. And man, they really set up like they made us wait for Jevon Evans versus Nathan Frazer because we knew how fast that would be. But actually easy to recap because I just say a series of reversals because what else is there to say on these things? Just really cool stuff. And Evans and Alexander played baby, of course. Axiom and Frazer lean heel when they have to, especially Frazer. But yeah, these guys won, but it wasn't about them. It was more about Wesley and Jevon Evans. I guess my big question is, shouldn't Cedric Alexander be a little pissed off about what happened here with Jevon leaving? Maybe he'll just be like, Cedric isn't a big project for this company anymore. He's just a guy that they like, and he's still around in a tag team. That's great. I like that they still have him around because I always liked him. But I don't think he's a big enough deal for them to make him all ticked off about this. Even though he should be ticked off that Evans left him during a challenge. And they even gave Alexander a big moment hitting the lumbar check, and he hit something. A Michinoku driver, I think.
It was.
Yes, and almost got the win on his own, but of course did not. Evans and Wesley had a little brawl, and RVD said, "Hey, you guys gave me an idea. I know what I'm going to do next week." I assume it's be a referee, but that was our Nitro style cliffhanger, because Shawn Michaels was never on Nitro, but he must have loved it, because he's starting to really love these cliffhangers, Nate. Main event.
Maybe they hired Russo. I don't know. Who knows? God, I hope not. God, I hope not.
Well, those were happening while Russo was still in WWE. So, yeah, I don't know.
That's true.
Those cliffhangers were all Bischoff, I think.
Well, maybe they hired Bischoff. But whatever. No. So as far as like the Jevon Evans stuff goes, kind of towards the end there, like I think it makes sense. Wesley has kind of, I don't know, he's kind of had his had it out for Jevon Evans, I guess, over the last handful of weeks. Really more, I think, his eye on the NXT title, and he sees Jevon Evans as a road bump for that, or speed bump. Speed bump sounds right. So yeah, like I said, I think it makes sense. Yes, Cedric Alexander should have definitely been a little bit pissed that Jevon just kind of left him high and dry. I doubt we'll actually see anything come of that, but I could see Cedric coming back next week being like, dude, what the hell? And maybe see like a little mini feud with Jevon and Cedric or something. But I would assume they'd want to turn one of them heel, or lean one of them heel, and I can't see them doing that with either one. Cedric more so than Jevon, but there's that. Yeah, like you said, this match, man, I don't know if I've caught my breath from it yet. This was a lot of fun to watch. Matter of fact, I was watching Nathan Frazer and Jevon Evans and during one sequence in this match, and I'm thinking to myself, like, Will Ospreay Ricochet. Like, I'd love to see Nathan Frazer get in there. I was actually talking with a friend of mine over the weekend about this. Get in there with like somebody like Ricochet. Obviously, I don't think we're going to see that in WWE anytime soon with Ricochet making his exit. But I think he's at that level, or he being Jevon Evans, he's either at that level or just a notch below it. Where I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, everybody else in the match is, they've already kind of made a name for themselves, or they're where they're going to be. Cedric Alexander, he's probably not going to have any sort of title reign anytime soon, or get a big major push anytime soon. Cedric's probably going to be in the spot that he's in. Nathan Frazer and Axiom probably going to be in the spot that they're in. Jevon Evans, he's got some room to grow, and and I think that was on display here tonight in this match. As well as the fact that they're now kind of booking him against Wesley in this against the show or in the show next week in the ECW arena. I don't think that'll wind up being the main event. I think the main event will be the Bubba Trick match versus Ethan Page and oh my God,
Ridge Holland.
Ridge Holland, thank you. I'm like, I could picture the guy clear as day in my head. Couldn't think of his name. I think that will probably wind up being the main event. But this could certainly open the show or be the mid-show main or something like that. We also have that 10-women tag team match that I could certainly see them giving some high billing to. There's the match with Dawn Marie as the special guest referee. So we might have 2 special guest referee matches if RVD decides to be a ref. So that could be interesting. I almost think maybe now that I remember that Don Marie's gonna be a special ref, maybe they will go to a different stipulation next week for RVD. But yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there because it sure seemed like I thought that him walking off like that. I thought special referee's not cool enough, but I said that with CM Punk, and that's what he did. But
I
you're
was
right; they
thinking
already have Don Marie doing that exact thing.
I was thinking special guest ref myself, even before you said it. So like I think that's kind of what they implied. But with Don Marie, and then they just did CM Punk, I can't imagine they'd do another one.
Yeah. Well, what else? What else do we think about when we think of Rob Van Dam? Ladder matches. But what do you put above? I mean, it's not a championship match.
A big old bag of weed.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing I think of with RVD. Hardcore title.
Well, then RVD is going
ECW.
to go up and get it while the two of them are fighting.
Matt Riddle
that's the
just somehow
problem.
shows up and grabs it or something like that, you know?
Right. Just comes out of nothing. Just appears. Say his name and he appears. Yeah, so that was our main. Wow, I missed a lot of comments over here. Noon Mountain asked, is Grace signed to WWE after Grace dropped the title to Masha last week? Maybe. They're a lot more cagey about these things than they were for a while. It seems like secrets are better kept, and it's more nebulous than ever now, too, because these companies are working so closely together. I don't think there's any incentive for either of them to spill the beans. That's a good question. But, I mean, people lose championships. They lose them all the time for a myriad of reasons, and that could be for the development of the new champ. But it could be that they're freeing Grace up to do an extended storyline on NXT. I think that's interesting. Steve Repshire also said there was a report that WWE had approached Lita for a spot in that 10-woman tag. Well, thankfully that didn't. I was never a huge Lita fan, and I understand that when she was really clumsy, there were things at play that were not to do with her training. There were things that were behind the scenes. I get it, but yeah, I prefer what we got. So there we go. And yeah, Noon Mountain thought the same thing as you, a joint on a pole match. To satisfy these guys, it's going to have to be probably more than one joint, but let's not go too far down that road. Maybe we already have. Opening match, Nate, the first women's casket match in WWE history. Can you believe it?
Believe it or not,
and it
I
was won by
can't believe
Tatum
it, but,
Paxley.
yeah.
Yeah, first one was won by Tatum Paxley wearing, I believe, I think it was Alice in Wonderlandy. And I think it was I played the Alice Madness Returns games on PS3 forever ago. They were great. I think that's what she was doing. Wendy Choo, very obviously Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I will have to send a photo of that to my daughter because that is her favorite movie. 10:08, this one went. And they really used their time to the fullest. They were pretty brutal with one another. Did a couple. It might have been too cutesy. The shot where Tatum Paxley made the save with the pillow, because essentially the casket did close even though the pillow was there. But whatever. They did what they did, and I don't hate them for it. I had the feeling that Paxley would win this throughout, even though Paxley is only just starting to win in this company. I worry about old Wendy Choo. I've never been a bigger backer of her than I am now. I've always been a big backer of the performer, but in general, I haven't really loved one of her characters since I actually dug the Mei Ying thing, high concept though it was. And this is more high concept than that. So that was your opener. Paxley wins, and there we go. Noon Mountain mentions Wendy Choo keeps losing in NXT and TNA. So got to take her lumps, I suppose. It's it's not a great place to be a character with mystique that always loses, because that's what Papa Shango was. And once he started losing, what the hell was the use of him? So thankfully, Charles Wright didn't get fired. They just gave him many, many gimmicks until they gave him one that stuck. So that's your opener, Nate.
Papa Shango, Godfather, Esquire. Yeah, that's not a well I thought I'd go to today. This was the first women's casket match in WWE. If you told, I don't know, I don't think I expected that stat to be true, but I believe it is. And B, I don't think I would have believed these two to take place in that first casket match for the women in WWE. But here we are. It was Tatum Paxley and Wendy Choo, and I think they did a pretty decent job with the match. You know, I mean, they had a few different gimmicks they went to, like, you know, like Kelly brought up a little bit ago, you know, using the pillow to kind of stop the cover of the casket coming down. They, you know, went to the Legos and things like that. It was entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. I wasn't sure what I was expecting out of this match. But I think this is probably as close to what I was expecting as possible. Excuse me. You know, I wasn't sure coming into the match who was necessarily going to win. I was kind of leaning towards Tatum Paxley. She feels like she needs a few solid wins here. You know, as Kelly said, you know, she's just kind of started winning. But I feel like they have they see some stock in that character, either whether it be her or the character. You know, they definitely see some stock in her. They're giving her a lot of TV time. Yeah, obviously they had her in a crossover with TNA showing up over there. I think she lost, if I'm not mistaken, in her match over there, but still, I feel like the company sees a lot in her. So, you know, not super surprising to me that she won. Wendy Choo, though, I don't really know, and I feel like I say this all the time, Wendy Choo, I don't really know where she goes from here. She keeps losing. She's got this character that, you know, as Kelly said, it's pretty high concept. It's not something that I could see, you know, and even though she has challenged for the for the NXT title as this character, I can't ever see her challenging for it again, or unless they really need somebody, or, you know, winning that title or the North American title. The character just, as interesting as it might be, especially in comparison to her original Wendy Choo character, it has a ceiling on it, and I don't really know how they get around that for her. I feel like she's just kind of destined to be mid card, and you know, Karen Q, the woman behind the mask, or at least the blue face paint tonight. You know, she I feel like she deserves better than that personally.
Okay, so yeah, I worry about Karen Q. In the end, I'm afraid that we'll probably just say Karen Q, because like she'll have gone through so many things and we won't know which one to settle on. So we just say, you know, Karen Q. All those characters she played. Okay. 3 other matches. None were, you know, they all served purposes. Let's say that. Let's actually go to a couple of comments here. Derek Mitchell in the chat said Cedric did have a perplexing look on his face last week's episode after Jevon Evans left the locker room. Wouldn't be surprised if Cedric turned on Jevon. That's actually a good point. But I feel like they're booked into a corner. Evans leaving, walking out on him makes him the more heelish one, but they're not going to do that with Evans at this point. And I don't know if they could, because he's so totally likable. So I think that would be tough. Brock Benningfield in the chat says the casket match was a fun match you'd only see on NXT. Yeah, I actually thought it was a lot of fun too. and just it said, obviously not a technical marvel, but that's not what they were put out there to do. And it had a lot of flavor because they were both doing the Halloween thing. And I think that Wendy Choo got away with it. Even though she's the character she is, she's essentially a Halloween character already, but was still allowed to do a little bit of Halloween stuff. So fun stuff there. I thought that was cool. So yeah, and Noon Mountain also adds they don't give Choo and Rosemary promo time. I think they're going with no talk for Choo. She's not. Has she talked at all since she became Evil Doll? Nate, do you know?
I can't remember her talking, but
I think it's
once
just Cruel Smiles.
I think once she did, but I think it's only that one time. I can kind of vaguely remember her with the mic in hand, but I could also be making this up off the top of my head. I don't know.
So we could talk about 3 other matches, but we're not going to do that next. We're going to talk about Bubba Ray Dudley. Surprise, surprise. Bubba Ray Dudley is a major player on NXT in 2024. So he is going to be in a tag team match alongside, sorry, I got all my moving parts here, alongside Trick Williams against Ethan Page and Ridge Holland. It's clear this is where they were going. I mean, 2 nights ago, Nate, we talked about this on this very podcast. We knew that this was going to probably end up with the tag team match, but Noon Mountain asks the same thing that I asked of you on that podcast. Does Bubba Ray turn on Trick next week? He always betrays his babyface tag partners and goes back to being Bully Ray. Yeah, I think that there is certainly a chance of that. I don't know if this is an extended thing for him or is this, if this is just stunt casting and he's here for the ECW show and that storyline and then Trick moves on, then no, he's not turning on him. But if he's going to be around for a bit, yeah, I think he does. I think that's where Bubba is more at home. But at any rate, 2 segments for these guys. I thought that it made sense for Bubba to turn him down, to say, I get it. Thank you. I want revenge, but I can't do that to the people in the locker room. I don't want to take their spot. And I thought storyline wise, that makes a lot of sense. And then that next angle, the next scene going the way it does, of course, he makes the save. Had some, very, very level 1 stuff to say, but he says it well about nobody came to help you. And the reason is right around your waist and all that stuff. I thought these were simple yet very effective wrestling tools. And I like that they did this in 2 long scenes rather than anything else. Trick has very much faded into the background as a champion in comparison to when he's a really compelling challenger for a championship. So to see him in these scenes and something to kind of sink his teeth into again is very nice. And I actually don't hate the dynamic between Ethan Page and Ridge Holland. Didn't think that was something that would ever excite me, but it's interesting to see where that's heading, regardless of a person's thoughts on either individual or both. So on what I imagine will be the main event tag team scene, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I can't find any fault with what you just said. I mean, we talked about it on the VIP after show after No Mercy. The other well, oh my God, what was the name of that show we just watched? Halloween Havoc. Wasn't No Mercy. Wow. Like I've said many times, if it hasn't happened today, I probably don't remember. But no, yeah, we talked about it the other day, and it seems like this is or it seemed like back then, this was the way they were going to go, some sort of a tag match between Ethan Page and Ridge Holland versus Trick and Bubba. And I like the way they set it up. I mean, it certainly makes sense. Bubba is that old. He's got that old school, kind of veteran mentality. where he doesn't want to necessarily take somebody's spot and things. I mean, not that I listen to a ton of Busted Open radio, but I mean, I've certainly heard, Busted Open, quite a few times over the years. I don't think I've ever actually gone out and like listen to an episode, but you catch clips on the internet and whatnot. So I could certainly see him actually having those feelings like, no, I don't want to go out there and take somebody's spot. But we also know, the man behind, I don't even know if I know what Bubba Ray's real name is. As far as I'm concerned, his real name is Bubba Ray.
Isn't it something like Ray LaMonica, Ray Licacelli?
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the.
I want to say it is LaMonica.
One of the really
very close to my
Italian
ex-wife's last name.
Man, his second promo tonight, his Bronx accent came out real strong for a minute.
Oh God, it did.
Like he was so
really
revved up.
It
came out.
Yeah,
in a way that like literally, I've been watching this guy for 25 years. I hadn't heard it come out that much.
Mark LaMonaco. Thank you, Steve. Thank you,
Mark
Steve.
LaMonaco. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah, once you said LaMonaco, I was like, yep, that's definitely it. Because my ex-wife's last name, just without the low, it's just Monaco. But yeah, like I see, I think this is a good way to set it up. Bubba, as I said, he's got that veteran mentality, but he also is all about respect. And you've heard that in his promos in the past. You've heard him talk about that, in interviews and things like that, both in and out of character. So I think it works. He came out, he got disrespected. He felt like Ridge was disrespecting not just him, but in the entirety of NXT and all of that, both tonight as well as at Halloween Havoc. So I think it makes sense. Ethan Page and Ridge Holland. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to, kind of be on the same page. I have a feeling they're going to work pretty well together. We may see a little bit of like dissension between the two of them in the middle of the match, which may wind up causing them to lose or something. So I'm assuming with Bubba at the old ECW arena, Trick and Bubba are going to go over for that feel good moment, to kind of end the show. But so maybe that's a way to kind of extend Ethan Page and Ridge Holland's kind of, I don't even want to call it a feud because it's really more of an angle to get to an NXT title match here, whether it be a singles match with one of the two of them and Trick Williams, or a triple threat or something. But yeah. So I think this should be an interesting match.
By the way, I said LaMonaco or Ray Licacelli. Ray Licacelli was one of the Doink the Clowns. I always remember that Doink the Clown and Bubba Ray Dudley are real names that I get mixed up, but I never remember which is which. So there you go. I looked that up while I was off here. So, all right. Let's see. What did we miss in the chat? Noon Mountain says Bully had a good feud with Josh Alexander and PCO about a year ago in TNA in the world title picture. I continue to be mind blown that we're talking about PCO.
Right.
This dude won the tag team championships in WWF like 10 or 15 episodes into Raw. Like legit, like in the first 3 months of Raw, he became a tag team champion there and still doing it. Good for PCO. Noon Mountain said, I never expected Ridge to become a good talker. I didn't either. And I don't get excited about him, but now he's in that weird spot of every time he shows up, I'm like, oh yeah, he's kind of gotten good at this. We'll see if fans allow it to happen. Derek Mitchell made a point that I really think is good. Bubba Ray teaming up with Trick makes sense in ECW arena. I don't see Bubba turning on Trick in the ECW arena. His Bully Ray character outside of WWE would turn on his babyface partner, not Bubba Ray. Yeah, I'm probably falling prey to having seen too much wrestling. Bully Ray would turn on anybody. Bubba Ray could be heelish at times, but when he was a heel, Devon usually was too. So there you go. Noon Mountain did point out that that recently he did team up with Josh Alexander only to stab him in the back. Noon Mountain says he's curious to see what Tony D does with Little Guido. FBI are still active in the Indies. I could not have told you that. I guessed Big Vito because I didn't think that there was any point for it to be Little Guido, but I haven't heard their voices for so long. I just didn't know. Steve Repsher says, hold on, are you guys getting bumped to audio only next Wednesday since NXT and AEW are at the same time, and that Keller guy is going to want the YouTube channel, or do you do a three-way co-host gig? That's a good question. As I've mentioned before, Wade and I live in the same small suburb. Our kids are friends. Last night, we ran into each other because our kids were singing in the same choir concert as featured performers. So like I've seen him in person very recently. So I had forgotten about the Wednesday things. But the point is I might run into him again. So I guess I can ask him. Noon Mountain mentioned that Bubba Ray is actually in better shape than his Dudley days. There you go. And finally, Noon Mountain says PCO is legit one of the hardest workers today. He's close to 60, but wrestles like a spot fest indie guy in his 20s. Nate, I'm close to 50, and I don't even walk like a guy who's 40. I don't know how to explain PCO. I think it's a medical marvel or a mistake or something.
Must be. It must be. I don't know how they continue to do it into their 40s, 50s, 60s, in some cases, but more power to them.
The Sheik, I know, was wrestling some into his 70s. Not the Iron Sheik, but the Sheik. And Yuji Nagata has said he wants to go until he's 70. And right now he's mid 50s or more. And he's still so good that I'm not going to tell him no. He's still pretty good in the ring. He won't make 70 unless he does. That's all I'm going to say about that. Brinley Reese versus Zaria. You know, I knew they'd throw somebody low level at Zaria first. Poor Brinley Reese. She's so excited about everything, and she goes out there. She gets squashed in a little under 3 minutes, and suddenly there's 10 women in the ring, and she's not one of them. So Zaria, of course, gets cornered by Fatal Influence, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, and then Kalani Jordan makes the save. Roxanne laughs at her and says it's 5-on-2 or whatever. Julia and Stephanie Vaquera are next. And Roxy says, all right, 5-on-4. That's good enough for us. And Jordan Grace's music plays to a big pop. And we're 5-on-5. So we've got a 5-on-5 for next week. This is not the main. I'm really excited for that Bubba Ray Dudley match and really excited to see what they do. But this is the one that I'm most psyched about. I think that this is, I say show stealing potential, but I don't think anybody would be surprised if this was the match of the night. So maybe you can't steal the show if people expect you to have it. So there, they did have a scene later with the baby faces getting Rhea Ripley told them to burn the house down or whatever, bring the house down. But I thought that was a pretty short appearance from Rhea. So really the reason she was there was to get a beat down from Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, a bloody beat down. It sure looked like she shed some real blood in that for the sake of that scene with the baseball bat, probably not via the baseball bat, but yeah, they did a little nasty scene to do a little bit of main roster stuff, but they did it on NXT. So the question is, will it be involved in anything? So on that Zaria opening match and the 10 woman match that surrounds it, Nate.
Yeah, so Zaria, like I said a few times now, like she's not somebody that I've been like super familiar with, as Delta. So I think this is probably the first time I've seen a match of hers bell to bell, and for what it was, I mean, it was okay. It was a pretty basic, generic match, squash match for Zaria. As soon as I saw she was going against Brindley Reese, it was like, woohoo! Sorry, Brindley. Feel bad. You're gonna have a long night. Or well, short night because it was only a 2 minute and 49-second match. But I think she's going to fit in pretty good here in NXT. She's got a great look. She's got a great gimmick. She has the endorsement from Rhea Ripley right off the bat here. So yeah, I think it works. Noon Mountain mentioned a couple times now that Zaria coming out to Karrion Kross's TNA theme. I'll take it at face value. I don't know what Karrion Kross's TNA theme sounds like. I tried Googling it a couple minutes ago here, but Kelly was like doing this whole yapping thing and I couldn't hear over him. It's not like it's like we're doing a podcast or something. The 10 women match, I kind of like this. Jordan Grace obviously is a part of it. We were talking last week. It was either last week or on the VIP after show after Halloween Havoc about the TNA partnership with WWE and NXT specifically. It seems like it's still going because obviously we've got Jordan Grace here tonight. She and she did, obviously she dropped her title to Masha, was it last week or week before or something like that. So we could certainly see her showing up in NXT a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her full time in WWE sooner rather than later. I know that they are interested in her. Why wouldn't they be? So I could see that happening sooner rather than later. In terms of the match, the 10 women tag, coming up next week, I think it should be fun. I'm hoping we wind up seeing the faces go over, but I could certainly see the heels kind of getting some sort of a dastardly win, especially with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade involved. I could kind of see them getting a little bit creative, I guess is a good way to put it, to win the match. Yeah, and there we go.
Noon Mountain says Brindley did a good job selling a dislocated shoulder. She's also feuding with Dana Brooke in TNA via the crossover, teaming with Zaya Brookside. I believe Dana is still called Ash with Elegance, unless I miss my guess.
Elegance.
Ash by Elegance. Yeah, yes. What the hell did I say?
With Elegance is what you said.
Oh, for dumb. Okay, yeah. Brindley with the dislocated shoulder. She can kind of do the same thing Alexa Bliss can. She can't do it to quite the level because with Alexa, it looks like an accident. With Brindley, you can tell she probably can just do that. But with Lex, I think maybe because it was the first time we'd seen it with Lexi, we just thought that that maybe something had gone horribly awry. Yeah, so that's a cool spot, something cool to be able to do, and something Brindley can hang her hat on, as she continues to be just muscled out in just a really, really strong. She's there at the wrong time. It's that simple. It's like being the sixth most important person during the time of Asuka. Like, what the hell were you going to do? Not a whole lot. So Lexis King versus Charlie Dempsey, the Rare Heritage Cup match that finishes 2-0. Charlie Dempsey goes up in the first fall, and then Lexis does I thought, pretty effective injury angle, slipping off of the apron and doing a thing with his knee. And then William Regal, who I thought would figure in a little more, actually, the only thing, he was only there to finally send the brass knuckles over to Lexis King. Lexis would not use them because he's trying to be good, but being good just isn't working for him. And Charlie Dempsey hit him with that thing he does and beat him 2-0 at a combined match time of about 8:15. The rare Heritage Cup match that ends 2-0. So, yeah, Lexis King has to wonder what he's got to do next. Brock Benningfield says Regal trying to kill his own son. Yeah, maybe he feels mistakes were made, but anyway, Heritage Cup. This title never ends up being on the PLEs, but I love these matches and I love the storytelling possibilities in them, Nate.
No, for sure, for sure. And it's cool to see a 2.0 match for the Heritage Cup. I mean, it's I think we've seen one, maybe two end this way before. So, nice that they're kind of going to that well a little bit because, it's always 2-1, always. But I think, this there can certainly be some effective storytelling this way for sure. I was also expecting William Regal to play a bigger role in this match. Probably, more. I was thinking, he was going to, maybe turn on Lexis King and side with the no quarter catch crew, almost kind of, almost doing like a Blackpool Combat Club thing with the no quarter catch crew, and kind of like being their manager or something, putting him with Charlie Dempsey, father, son. They've alluded to the fact that they are related, but they've never actually said it, as far as I'm aware, on TV. They've mentioned Charlie Dempsey, has a comes from a legacy or something like that. I forget how they worded it, but they never actually put two and two together on TV and say that that he's the son. So it's almost kind of like Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher. It was always kind of that you could, if you knew, you knew. But if you didn't know, you just thought Jerry Lawler was a massive Brian Christopher fan. I was kind of hoping that they might do something like that with, with William Regal, and they still might. But I would almost think this was just kind of a one-off for William Regal, and he's going to go back to doing, behind the scenes things. Let's see what else. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. We can move on.
Yeah, they did that with he and his son, Lawler and his son, but they also did that with a little bit with Lawler and the Honky Tonk Man, who are cousins. So, and in both cases, JR was being like, he knew he wouldn't say the words, but he was like razzing JR, razzing Lawler about it. So, yeah, I think you can get away with that, and you can have it both ways by doing it the way they're doing. The one other match that we have is Kalani Jordan versus Nikita Lyons. This was set up earlier. Nikita trying to muscle her way into a match with Fallon Henley, and Kalani basically just not even looking at Nikita and saying, "All right, fine, I'll take care of her, and then I will take care of Fallon Henley." So Kalani wins this match in 4:02. Adriana Rizzo shows up. I had forgotten about this hook. I was actually interested to see who had attacked Adriana Rizzo, but had forgotten about it until she showed up on the ramp and looked in at Nikita, and Nikita showed that annoyance that, oh yeah, now is the consequences of my own actions. So that opening allowed Kalani to beat Nikita. So Nikita back to losing lower level matches because, I mean, where are you going to push her now? Even though we know Sean would love to. But she's never been great. And right now she's she understands the psychology of things a lot better than ever. And I think she's, now that they're trying to present her as a heel, that's probably better because she's not very likable. So I think that's helping. Noon Mountain asked if she was dressed up like a pirate in a thong. Yeah, that was. I think the pirate thing was just part of the Halloween gimmick. She'll go back to wearing her idiotic gear after this week, I'm sure. Yeah, they want to make her happen, but every time they bring her back, she's a little further down the card, and I just don't know why. But I will say that even though this was only 4 minutes long, it was one of the better matches she's had. Kalani has good matches with a lot of people now. Adriana Rizzo shows up afterwards. So Lyons and Rizzo are in what feels like a very, very low-level feud now, because there are so many women in the main event scene right now. Yeah, just really stacked. Brock Benningfield says, "Pirate booty." There's a joke in there somewhere. Yeah, you don't have to look very far to find that particular joke. Nikita's around for that reason. If she becomes a good wrestler, I'm sure they think that's icing on the cake. I don't think she'll become great, but
icing on the cake. I see what you did there.
I didn't mean to. I actually didn't mean to, and I can't believe I didn't mean to, because I'm the guy that would mean to. Okay, Kalani Jordan over Nikita Lyons, 402, Nate.
Yeah, so Kalani Jordan beat Nikita Lyons. That's cool. No, I mean, like you said, I give her credit where credit's due. I feel like she has gotten a little bit better, improved her ring psychology, 100%. She's improved. I still I don't see it with Nikita Lyons. As I mentioned, I think it was last week, she's certainly an attractive woman. I understand what they're trying to do there with her, but I don't feel like she has it to be at the level they want her to be at. Maybe she will. Like I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. I don't want to see people fail. I don't want to have to, I don't want to be sitting here talking about, wanting somebody to fail or wanting them off my screen or whatever. I want them obviously to succeed. I just don't know what she needs to do for that. And you know what? And the kind of the I guess a rebuttal to that is maybe she's just not for us. Maybe she's not for you and me. There might be people out there, and I know there are people out there that are certainly fans of hers for one reason or another. So there definitely may be some value there for her, even if she can't wrestle circles around some of the women that are also on the roster. I like the fact that this is kind of where the whole Adriana Rizzo thing has wound up. Adriana, I think she's such a cool character. I really do. We haven't seen her do a lot of wrestling, and the physical interaction we saw tonight between her and Nikita Lyons, I think there's going to be some left to be desired with Rizzo in the ring, which makes me wonder what this inevitable match is going to look like. Where I'm not super confident in either competitor's ability. That said, this whole thing with Rizzo, like I feel like she understands her character. Her character works great. Like, I go back to the promo that she had, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks ago at this point, where she was backstage with Tony D'Angelo and kind of convincing him, of who the hell he is. You're the Don, and kind of giving him that confidence back. And I thought she was absolutely fantastic in that. And I even said, I want to see more out of her, and I'm glad that this is where we're at. This is kind of her first singles feud. I'm sure the family is going to get involved in it somehow, but we haven't seen her in a feud where she has been the focus. She's always been, the sidekick to Tony D'Angelo, or sitting in the corner or standing in the corner for Stax or Luca. But now we're going to see her, singles competition, which I think we have seen her in singles competition in the past, at least once or twice. She's been in the ring. But this is the first time, in a while that we're going to see that. And I think this could potentially lead to more of that down the road. for her. Like I said, her character work is great. It's going to be the in-ring work that I think is going to be the challenge.
That scene she had gassing up Tony D was one of my favorite things that any character has done on NXT.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. That made me like Tony D more, which was the intent.
Yes.
And it actually worked on me, even though I knew that was just the intent storyline wise. Yeah, that worked pretty well. She's really good at that aspect. I've watched just enough Level Up to know why they're taking their time with her, because I think they like her, but wrestling wise, she's okay. I saw a match of hers and Izzy Dames, and Rizzo beat Izzy Dame. I almost couldn't remember who it was because Izzy Dame has not enjoyed a lot of TV time lately.
A lot of Z's there.
Yeah, Rizzo and Dame, 4 Z's in that match. That was the main event of one of the episodes I watched of Level Up. But Rizzo they're taking their time. Her finishing move, I think, is it a Thez press? It's something like that. It's called risotto. Because why wouldn't it be, Nate? Okay, so Jada, Lola, they're having a feud. And that is, I'm not going to mention cake, Nate. That would be so lame. I'm not going to do that. And Rhea Ripley, she had her scene. She got all bloody. And Spears and Jensen, they had a scene. I don't know what they were talking about, because when Sean Spears shows up on TV, my brain exits the room. And the family took a phone call, and they said it was Little Guido. I'm gonna trust the viewer who said that it was Little Guido, because it's just been too long for me with these voices. And I thought Big Vito, and I literally based that on he's bigger. So Noon Mountain says Jada is main roster ready too. I loved it when Rizzo and Jada got some shine on World Star Hip Hop. Yeah, Jada is probably main roster ready. I think that has been true for a while. I don't think this is somebody you need to. This is also somebody who could be a bigger deal on the main roster, because they can catch fire there, even though they feel like they're being muscled out of the main picture now that so many stars. And I think you could really argue that Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Delta Zaria were brought in way too close to one another. Like, I know they were brought in when they were brought in, but debuting them so back to back to back, and all his baby faces, I just think was a surprising choice, even though it feels really hot right now. They just dropped those. They took those bullets out of the chamber real quick. I think that I covered all the backstage segments. Nate, is there any cleanup you want to do there before I check to see if there are emails? Because I've definitely not done that.
And let's check for emails. And notice I said that quick because I wanted to put you on the spot, since I knew you didn't have them pulled up.
Thanks, buddy. That's awesome.
Hey, no problem.
I'm not even in the right email account. Kevin Tanny says, salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. Sorry about my wonky schedule, but I promise I'll make it up to you. Yeah. Let's peel back the curtain. Kevin was going to do this show for me because I don't have time to do it, but here I am. And he couldn't do it. Kevin continues, let me just say
he
that
was
I love
busy being a husband and father, though. So
I am both of those things, and I've been both of them longer, Nate.
Okay, there you go. You know what, Kevin? You don't have an excuse anymore. Sorry. I tried.
Nope. Kevin says, let me just say that I love tonight's episode. It was a great blend of new stars, current stars, and nostalgia acts. I don't know what Bubba Ray has left in the tank, but I look forward to seeing him back in the 2300 arena next week. I'd also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the return of Jordan Grace. I can't wait to see her more regularly. I don't know if we're going to see her regularly, if this is a bit of stunt casting. necessitated by the fact that Lita couldn't do the match. But we'll see. Kevin continues. Since they teased RVD, what role do you think he'll have next week? And if you had to make a bold prediction for next week, what do you think will happen? Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to AYB. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. Bold prediction. Tommy Dreamer shows up. Because he's the biggest deal out of people who aren't booked, who can show up. Because Taz
and Rhino.
Can Rhino? I was going to ask about Rhino.
Rhino was just inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame a few days ago.
Ooh, Rhino might show up then.
Yep.
And Rhino would be cooler for WWE audiences because he was a bigger deal in WWE by far than Tommy Dreamer was.
And he had a stint in NXT.
Yeah. And he's cooler. So there's that.
Gore!
He just is, folks. So yeah,
I just thought he was really into politics.
He's definitely he's a mayor guy. He's done his stuff.
I was just Gore, Al Gore. Bad joke overhead.
He is into politics. Like it is a politician.
Actually, yes. Wow, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah,
I thought that's what you were saying.
No, I was making a weird Al Gore joke in the year 2024, but
no, Rhino the Man, Terry Guerin has been like a politician for a while. So I thought that's what you were bringing up. But yes, that's my bold. It's not a very bold prediction, but it's what I got for you. Because some of the other acts I want to see from ECW, they couldn't possibly bring back. Rey Mysterio was awesome in ECW because they also did just cool work rate matches on top of the stuff they were doing extreme wise. But I don't think anybody today equates Mysterio with ECW. So
no,
that would surprise me. There's just a small handful of names that A, we equate with them, and B, are big enough to show up. And I dare say we brought them all up. Other than Heyman.
Which we talked about last week.
Yeah, there are arguments for and against, but I don't think you bring him into this show without introducing him to the main roster first, unless you bring him in such a way that it's actually a stepping stone to his main roster re-debut. Brock Benningfield says, "Oh my God, it's Joey Styles." I guess you could do Joey Styles too. I got a soft spot for him because he real life knocked out JBL, who was bullying him, and the idea of Joey Styles punching out JBL on a plane will never not be funny to me. So that would be great for me. But there you have it, Nate. Anything else on that email?
Yeah, I mean, so RVD's role, what we think he's going to do next week. We talked about that a little bit. Potentially special guest referee, but we talked about why that may not be it. It did too many special guest referee matches in short order. So I don't know. I really don't, because like all signs point to special guest referee, but I don't know. I don't know if we want to see two special guest referee matches from ECW alumni in the same show. I don't know if that really seems compelling to me. So I don't know. I don't know what RVD's role is going to be, but God dang it, I'm intrigued to find out. A bold take. My bold take. Devon comes out of retirement, and Nathan Frazer and Axiom lose their tag titles to the Dudleys. That's my bold take. It ain't happening, but goddamn, that'd be cool.
That is stupid bold. That is crazy bold.
Isn't it?
That makes mine seem very, very soft. How do I top that? My bold take is that several dead wrestlers come back from the grave. That's what I'm going to need to top your call that the Duds win the NXT championships. By the way, Too Cool were one of the first challengers for the NXT Tag Team Championships. For
Yes,
those
they
of you
were.
who don't remember,
I remember that.
There was the Ascension were like the unbeatable champions at a time when there were no other tag teams. So it was a really, really crummy run where they were just beating jobbers to the point where they just had to wrestle a surprise team at TakeOver, and it ended up being Too Cool. And that was basically the last time we got to see Brian Christopher / Grandmaster Sexay. I did not realize we would bring him up so many times. So there we go. I believe that is our show. And we will be talking ECWWE next week. Nate, I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on social media at Spooky Milk.
Nate Lindberg. Check things I do out at natelindberg.com.
All right. Cheers. And we will see you in 8.